I had Michael Murphy from The Telegraph. He's done some documentaries about Ireland as well. I don't think he's actually Irish, but he might have some ancestry, but he's got the Murphy name, to discuss the very, very sudden immigration in Ireland.
Yes.
Living there, I think you're initially American, aren't you?
Yes, I was born and raised in America, beautiful state of Maine, and I moved to Ireland 22 years ago.
You've picked up the accent, haven't you?
A little bit.
A little bit of an accent. I would do the same thing. Same thing if I was Irish, if I was living in Ireland. But how is the situation? Are you day to day just seeing like, what the hell?
We're in crisis. We have an open border crisis. We have a crime crisis. We're in a serious situation. So, Ireland is being flooded with illegals. And I use the word illegals because up to 85% of these, mostly men are landing on their own, without their women and children. They're landing up to 85% with no passport or ID. And many of them are coming from countries that are safe. And with the different regulations on immigration, they're supposed to claim asylum in the first safe country, the first one they enter. A lot of their countries don't even have direct flights to Ireland. So unless they're coming on a dinghy, it's not the first safe country. So they are invading. These are unwelcome invaders to every town, every village. Tourism has reduced significantly. It came out in the news, more than 25% reduction. There's not hotels to stay in. They're being filled with migrants. People in Ireland are making billions off this human trafficking. So if I'm a hotel owner, I'm going to make a lot more money by bringing in these illegal men to stay in the hotel than I would renting a room out to you or me on a holiday. So it's really a problem.
The government would pay you, is that how it works?
Exactly. The government would pay. For example, there's a small scale local pub down the road from me in Ireland, and it came out in the news that the man who converted this pub to a migrant centre is getting paid 65,000 euros a month.
Wow.
That's a lot more than he would get selling beer on a weekend. So people are selling off their country because of greed. But as a woman in Ireland, I have to walk around the streets and carry protection with me. Now, we're not allowed guns or pepper spray, but women in Ireland are buying deep heat or making aerosol sprays and carrying sharp objects just to walk around the streets. Yeah. There's stabbings every second day.
Because you're not even allowed... pepper spray?
No, you're not allowed pepper spray.
Which must shock Americans listening because, you can have guns there. You can't have guns here, but you can't even have pepper spray, which I think is, I haven't, maybe is there lasting damage from pepper spray? Is that?
It's not lasting damage. When I actually moved to college and lived in the city, my dad, who was a correctional officer at the state prison, sent me off to college with pepper spray and said, if you ever need it, please don't hesitate to protect yourself. Now, unfortunately, I did have to use it for someone that broke into my house, and he fell on the porch and stumbled out to the car. I quickly rang the guards, but it only stings for maybe half an hour. It doesn't do permanent damage. But in Ireland, women are not allowed to carry something like that. So walking through the streets of Dublin, people wonder, are they going to be attacked? We had 3 school children be stabbed just over a year ago in Parnell Square in the broad daylight. We had a young teacher, Aisling Murphy, jogging and got brutally stabbed 11 times, although media didn't report the stabbing until it was uncovered. They falsified the news. So they don't want to report on migrant crime. And the Minister for Justice was saying that there's no link between open borders and crime. But if we look at the likes of Germany and Sweden, where a small percentage of their population is foreign. For example, I think it's in Germany, 12% are foreigners, but over 60% are those who are in doing the gang rape crime. So there's a direct link, but our government wants to deny it. Instead, what they do is they try to tap our phones, the police brutality, protesting peacefully against the immigration, and they go out and vilify people like me by using labels such as bigots, racist, transphobic, extremists. So they try to use such bad labels that if anybody sees us out peacefully assembling against this invasion, the public remember the labels that media gave, and you're vilified.
So to reiterate, this is a government that is letting in an extraordinary number of people from places that have very different values about women. Yes. And we know from stats in Germany and Sweden, as you say, I believe Denmark as well has just the statistics prove this, that are more likely to commit crimes against women. The women are not allowed to even carry pepper spray and defend themselves. And for speaking out against it, the Irish government wants to have access to your private messages and basically deems you a terrorist. And this is supposed to be a liberal That's their idea of liberal, progressive society.
Yes. And when we talk about liberal and progressive, I think a really important point to make is it's all inverted. So if we look at, for example, even how they're pushing the transgender agenda in schools, they're doing it under the guise of being inclusive and being kind and being an ally for all of those trans-identifying children. But it's not inclusive to children like mine who may be gender critical, who believe there are only two sexes. Biological sex cannot be changed.
Your children better believe that.
So if you don't believe it, the children will be reprimanded. Those children who don't believe it, who use their critical thinking and follow the science, they will be told they're a bully. There's even a new program in Ireland being rolled out called Conultus, which is the Irish word for kindness. It's the anti-bullying program. What that's doing is sneaking the LGBTQI plus in the back door, expecting my children to be an ally, or they will be considered a bully and be reprimanded under this policy.
And one of the things you've been tweeting about, just to go back to the sort of migrant issue here, is the boys that are being dressed as girls in Afghanistan. Just to reiterate that point about, not all cultures are equal, and that is what we are bringing. I mean, are you noticing more, I suppose, the Islamification of Ireland?
Ireland is definitely experiencing Islamification. I mean, you go into certain parts of Dublin, and I, as a white female, would be a minority. The amount of faces that are covered, which I personally believe nobody should be allowed to go around wearing the hijab or the burqa to cover their face. It's a security issue, that we have facial recognition going on. Well, how are they going to recognize a face that could commit a crime if it's completely covered up except the eyes? So absolutely.
And the social aspect of it as well.
And the social aspect as well. So, I am a migrant, and I'm not against migrants at all. I moved to Ireland 22 years ago, but I'm all about controlled immigration and doing it the proper legal way, and flooding the borders with unvetted people, mostly men who don't respect our culture, putting 1,000 men in a small accommodation. What could go wrong? They
would say, and I've heard the other argument, which is, yes, but you try to do it the legal way and you can't because it's so difficult to do. There are billions of people around the world right now who want to come to Western societies and unfortunately then don't adapt and try to make those societies how their original societies were in the first place. But it is very difficult to do it. It takes years and years. And then some people somehow do seem to be able to come. I don't understand how it all works. Nobody does. And then you might then respond to them, or I would respond to them, well, that's how the world works. I'd love to live in America perhaps, but it wouldn't be very easy. In fact, it would probably be impossible for me to get a visa. I'd love to live in lots of different places and I can't do it. And if they did open the borders for everybody to go to America, well, most of the world would move to America. But as soon as they could afford to, any which way, they'd all be going, and America would now have a population of 5 billion. Yeah. So it has to, I don't know how it can continue. Do you think there's a sense with Ireland, and it's something I've been wondering about, that they are trying to be a moral superpower? I've heard Sweden talk about becoming a moral superpower. You've got like political superpowers like America, Russia, China, maybe the UK was once such a thing. And then Ireland's never going to compete. Sweden can never compete in that sense, or an economic power. But what they can do is show the world how welcoming and moral and just they are. Do you think there's some of that in Ireland?
I think there's a few reasons why the government is flooding people in. If we look at sort of Is it about money? Yes, they're getting paid from the United Nations, the EU to flood our borders. There's money involved. There's probably a sense of ideologues, people who really think that it's kind to flood our borders and let all these poor men in. There may be some people who are compromised, and then some of it is about ego. So they want Ireland to be the best boy in class. They want the world to see that Ireland is going along with the global agenda, because this isn't driven on a grassroots level at all. This is driven from the United Nations. What's happening is coming from the World Health Organization. We even saw documents that said, due to the climate crisis, we need to start, migrating people in. So they're using the climate crisis to flood people in.